Holy crap! Holy crap! Oh, that was a big fish. Get the net, dude.
Dude, that is a monster.
Yes! Yes! That was freaking awesome. What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Fishing Lone Star. My name is Jeremy, and today we are talking frog fishing. This is somewhat of the 101 course, so kind of for beginners, but a lot of great content. Hopefully you feel like that I'm sharing here. This is not the 201 version or the 301 version. There's a lot of things you could dive into about frog fishing, but more or less the 5 things you need to know to get better hook sets, bigger fish, and ultimately more success while you're out frog fishing. So what we're gonna cover is the equipment you need to use, the types of frogs or different types of frogs, colors of frogs, where to throw a frog, and how, what the retrieve looks like. So that's what we're gonna break down. Let's dive in and talking about the actual setup and the equipment that you need. All right, so this is, I'll tell you exactly what I use. This is a Lews Super Duty. I believe it's a 20-pound drag on a Lews TP1 black speed stick heavy. So it's a heavy rod with a pretty Super Duty or heavier duty reel, and also with braid. Now I throw my frogs on 50-pound braid. Some use 65. It's probably just your preference around exactly how thick of stuff you're fishing. Usually you're gonna throw a frog in a lot of cover, but what I usually throw around is not incredibly thick, so 50-pound braid has been fine for me. But where you don't want to give is probably on the rod, because your rod is your biggest tool in terms of gaining leverage to really set the hooks. If you'll notice on a frog, the hooks on the back are extremely thick, so the diameter, the thickness of the hook is a heavier gauge hook. So you want a really heavier rod with a big backbone to be able to jack the fish back out of whatever cover you're fishing in, whether it be heavy grass or whether it be around timber to pull a fish over a stump. You're gonna want braid, and you're also gonna want a heavier rod and a reel with a good drag. So that's just my particular setup. That's a little bit of at least my setup in terms of what I'm using for my rod and reel. Now let's talk about the different types of frogs. All right, now there's many types of frogs. I'm just gonna highlight kind of the top 3. And you've got kind of a buzz frog or a buzz toad where these legs kick quite a bit. You've got your standard walking frog, and then you've got a popping frog with a cupped lip on it. Of these 3, I probably prefer the popping frog. I'll tell you why in a minute. But I think they all each serve their purpose. If you're around really thick, heavy stuff, I'd say go with the standard frog, because it's one less thing for your cupped lip to get stuck on. And sometimes these legs will get kind of bogged down and stuff. So a standard frog when you're fishing around really heavy cover. I really like a buzz frog and some open water. Some people may disagree with that, but I think the noise that these create does mimic a lot of bait fish, kind of scattering all on the top of the surface. And so therefore you'll draw a lot of bites with a buzz style frog, more in open water. And somewhere in the middle, when you've got grass or cover, but not necessarily a ton of it, again, heavy pads, I would go with something simple like this. Lighter pads or kind of sparse or just some grass but not a ton, I would go with the popping frog, because you're gonna get a lot of sound if you want by jerking hard. You can walk it really easily. All around a popping frog like this is a Blitz lure popper frog, is my #1 choice. And what I throw, well, you see, it's on my rod right now. What I throw probably 75–80% of the time is going to be this frog. And the reason why is because you'll see it's keeled on the bottom, which allows it to walk really well with small twitches. The cupped mouth allows me to plop it along very loudly or very softly. I can work it fast, I can work it slow, and you'll notice the curvature here on the back allows for a great hookup ratio. So as a bass bites that with very little pressure, the hooks are exposed, which gives me a great hook set, again, on my heavy rod. All right, so that's the types of frogs. Let's now talk about the color of frogs. And for this purpose, I'll use all the 3 same frogs in terms of a popping frog, but just different colors. Now, oftentimes many people choose their colors by looking this way at a frog. I would challenge you, however, to turn the frog over and choose your colors this way. Now, in this particular case, it's pretty similar, although this is silver on top, white on the bottom, black on top, brown, pretty same, green and yellow. But the bottom is what the fish sees, obviously. Here's how and when I choose which color of frog to throw. On a clearer water, I will throw a white frog. The thought process is, and you can see this one looks more like a shad than it does a frog. And in clear water, I just find that a whiter frog that looks more like shad does better. In really dirty water or a really cloudy day, I will go with a black or brown. The silhouette of this stands out more on a really darker, cloudier day or darker water, and then somewhere in between. If you've got a mix of clouds and slightly stained water, I will throw this frog. That yellow and green really, and again, the yellow and green on the back really, really stands out. So the majority of the time I'm probably throwing this yellow and green. I happen to be fishing some clear water this weekend, which is why the white is on. And if I'm fishing darker water or a cloudier day or early morning or darker later at night, I'm probably throwing the darker colors. So there's a breakdown of colors for you. But really, I think you could probably get away with these 3. Something that is bright, like a yellow-green, something that's darker, black or brown, and something that's lighter or a white color. There's your 3 different colors that you could choose to throw in your frogs. All right, so we've talked about the gear to use. We've talked about the types of frogs and the different colors of frogs. Now let's talk about the last 2 things. One is where to throw a frog and how to throw it. So where? I always try to throw my frog anywhere I see any type of vegetation sticking out of the water. So grass lines, any type of I use the term weeds, but basically just grass or vegetation sticking out of the water of all different kinds. That is where I want to throw my frog, because my thought process is there's likely a fish that is hiding somewhere underneath that vegetation, using that as an ambush point to come up and smash a frog that comes right over it or right around it. So anything that's sticking out of the water, timber, logs, laydowns, again, I'm assuming that that's an ambush point for a fish, and that's where I'm throwing the frog. Now, I mentioned the buzz frog earlier, throwing in open water. You can do that, and you can throw in open water. You can also throw a popping frog and make loud pops with it. The thought process, though, is even when I'm using it in open water, for me, I'm still usually doing that where I know there's vegetation under the water. So say if here's your top of the water, here's grass 2-3 feet from the top of the water. I'm going to throw that frog over where I know there's submerged grass or submerged timber. Again, thinking that's an ambush point, and the loud thumping of that buzz frog is going to allow that fish to come up and bite it. And assuming that's likely a shad or something scooting across the top of the water. Again, I'm using the underlying grass or the timber as a, in my mind, an ambush point where that fish likely is. So those are the areas that I target most. I think those are your highest percentile areas of where to fish. Anytime there's vegetation sticking out of the water, anytime there's timber sticking out, or anytime you know just by being on the water that there's grass down there. All right, last is how to retrieve. If you're fishing in the lake, meaning you're on the water, I like to make a cast slightly onto the shoreline and bring it back into the water. It's a little bit of a quieter entry, plus it's different than just throwing your frog and it smacking the water and creating a big ripple effect. You can still do that, and I've caught fish doing that, and if you are doing that, just wait for the ripple sometimes to dissipate and then work your frog. Now, there's kind of 2 schools of thought. One is to work your frog slowly, so literally a twitch, pause, twitch, twitch, pause, twitch, pause, twitch, twitch. You get the idea. Or the idea is to work it faster. So twitch, 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 twitch. Now, either way, the important thing is if you're going with a twitch, pause, twitch, twitch, pause, you want to twitch, reel in your slack, twitch, twitch, reel in your slack, twitch, reel in your slack. So as much as possible, you want as little slack in your line, because I'm telling you, There's one thing about frog fishing is sometimes you're going to be surprised when a bass comes up and smashes this. There's been some pretty vicious blow-ups, just like the one at the very beginning of this video. Holy crap! Where a bass comes completely out of the water, takes your frog. In that particular case, caught me off guard. But one thing I did in that clip is I reeled down my slack and then set the hook as hard as I can. Holy crap! Now again, you've got heavy hooks, you've got hopefully a big rod, and you've got braid. Set the hook as hard as you can. You want those hooks to drive into that fish's mouth, all right? Now, if you're doing these steady retrieves, so twitch, 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 and you're reeling the whole time, it's not reeling as you're doing it. It's every other. So twitch, reel, twitch, reel, twitch, reel. And the more you do it, the better you get with muscle memory of going twitch, reel, twitch, reel, twitch, reel. So you're not actually moving the frog with your reel, you're moving the frog with your rod. Okay, hope that makes sense. Again, if you're wanting louder pops and a bigger presence, then it's going to be hard, more prominent twitches. Reel in your slack, twitch, reel in your slack, or it can just be small little twitches with the rod tip. With this particular frog, literally just a small little twitch allows this frog to walk. Bigger twitches makes it go forward and pop and splash with the mouth, which is why I like this, because I can work it both ways. A little bit of a bonus tip. This is the Blitz Lure Poppin' Frog. I do not get compensated for saying this at all. I will just tell you that this frog, the way it is designed, the way the cup mouth is, the way the keeled belly is, and just the texture of the plastic. I mean, I'm just barely pressing and those hooks are exposing. It has helped me be a better frog fisherman. I got so tired of missing hook sets and very frustrated about it. You could get hookups all you want, you could get fish to bite it all you want, but if you don't set the hook and land the fish, it's just frustrating. And it wasn't really until I received this particular frog, this exact frog, at a recent Monster Bass box. In fact, if you go back and watch I think it was the April unboxing, I talk about this frog, and the very next day, went out and crushed them, which is where the clip at the beginning of this video came from, was me using this frog for the very first time. So a great frog, Blitz Lures, Popper Frog. I'll leave a link in the description below. That's what I would use. Again, Lews Super Duty, Lews TP1 Heavy Black Speed Stick, and this actually is a Cast King 50-pound braid. You can use 65. That's a quick rundown of frog fishing, a frog fishing 101 version. Let me know if this is helpful for you. Let me know as well if there's any other techniques that come to mind that you would like me to break down. I would love to know it below in the comments. Also, please like, please subscribe. Help me continue to grow this channel so I can share more great content. Hope this was helpful, guys. Get out, go smash some fish on some frogs. It is so much fun. And if nobody told you today, God loves you, and so do I. Peace out. I'm gonna show the camera. Look how that fish ate that. That's awesome. She goes.